Americans have been burning houses, taking cows and oxen. Bloody Americans. They even took my trousers. I didn't want to come to this country. I don't know why King George wants anything to do with them. Should have just left them to their own devices and stayed at home. But he sent me, and he sent my men to come to this blasted country and take it back. Bloody Americans thinking they're going to make their own country ungrateful. Ah! Yes, that's right, men! Fire away! Fire away! Have no mercy! They had no mercy on us. Just last night, a boat was run ashore. But these bloody Americans and 6 soldiers and 1 sailor were taken hostage. And we found them shot. That's right. It makes a man angry. Well, I'm sent here to take care of the problem. And I know what the real issue is. It's the bloody French helping the bloody Americans. You know what's going to happen if the Americans win this war? They're going to have to fight the French because the French do nothing for free. That's something we learned about the French. They're even worse than the Americans. Well, but, okay. I'll see if I can get these battlefields to shut up a little bit, order my men to stop fighting them anyway. We're wasting shots. It's not very easy to shoot people with those little balls. All right, men. Men, what can I do? Retreat. Retreat. I've got to teach a lesson. In the middle of a damn war, they want me to teach TOK. Most men don't even know what that is. Bloody Americans. All right, guys. Hello. Welcome to yet another episode of Unpacking the Title. This should be a threatening saber, but it isn't. It's a tube. But you can't do that with a saber now, can you? Alrighty, guys, anyway. So, I am going to do number 1. And that will come up there. It'll be up there for about a minute. The reason that I don't have them up there the entire time is because the editing program takes forever for some weird reason to I edit the video when the text is up there the entire time. I have no idea why. It took like 3 hours to do one video. So I just have it up there for a minute. You guys have these, so it's enough time anyway. Okay? Anyway, so the question is this. Accepting knowledge claims always involves an element of trust. I can't believe they took my trousers. Bloody Americans took my trousers, left me with these short things. I know my legs are nice looking, but it's cold. Anyway, accepting knowledge claims always involves an element of trust. Discuss this claim with reference to 2, not 1, that's 1. And if you have another one over here, that's 2. 2 areas of knowledge, that seems to be the standard. So, okay, accepting knowledge claims always involves an element of trust. Discuss this claim with reference to 2 areas of knowledge. Okay, so this is a rather contentious statement. Let's unpack it. Unpacking the topic, that's what we're here doing. Okay, so what does it actually say? Well, what it's kind of saying is that you can't really know anything completely. You can't really know anything with complete certainty. Now, it is not about certainty, but it's implying that you can't ever be completely certain about the topic. And because of that, you have to have an element of trust. Now, what does certainty mean? Remember, we've talked about this in class, and this is important for this discussion, and I think that you could feasibly and reasonably put this briefly in the introduction or talking about something. Certainty, there's 2 types of certainty. There's foundational certainty, where you're 100% certain of something, so you say you know it. Like, for instance, I'm 100% certain that I'm standing here. I'm 100% certain that my hair is messy. I'm 100% certain this is a piece of paper, so I know it, okay? Now, we don't need to have the Descartesian skepticism say I might not actually be here. Sure, that's a possibility, but that's just so dumb, really. Okay? Maybe it isn't. Who knows? Maybe we're rolling the matrix. But Okay? So first, I'm 100% certain, so therefore I know it. Like for instance, I used the thing in class about strawberry ice cream or something. I'm 100%, or let's say cheesecake, strawberry cheesecake. I'm 100% certain I like Charles strawberry cheesecake. I don't need to eat a piece to prove it. I can't prove it to you. It's based on this feeling of certainty, so I know it. I know I like strawberry cheesecake. The other element is pragmatic certainty, where you don't know something until you actually see it working. Okay? So you know, you're certain that you can, I've used this example before, but you're certain you can speak Spanish only when you go to a Spanish-speaking country or talk to Spanish-speaking people in Spanish and you successfully navigate the conversation. Okay? You can't know you speak Spanish if you don't ever try it. You think you do, but the teacher might be teaching you a completely wrong language just because he or she is crazy. Like that. That's what they do. If your teacher starts doing that, you know they're crazy. That doesn't mean I'm crazy, I'm just illustrating it. Okay, and so anyway, so those are two types of things. And so why am I talking about this? Well, I think, so let's get to the question. I'll get back to that in just a minute. Okay, accepting knowledge claims always involves an element of trust. So this is saying that we have to have trust. Now, if you're not certain of something, you need to have some trust, right? Okay, you do, because otherwise how are you going to know anything? If you're not completely certain, then you have to trust something because, how will you know it otherwise? And so I think that you could say that there's a couple ways that this does and doesn't work. So let's take a look at some, and obviously, this is a contentious claim. Obviously there are things that don't involve an element of trust, okay? Now you can say you can say 2 + 2 is 4, or parallel lines never meet, right? A square has 4 sides. Do I need an element of trust there? All right, now let's talk about math, because math is a good counter to this. Now, we might say that you have to have an element of trust to believe the axioms. And I guess in a very, 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 very rigid philosophical sense, that is possibly true, because I can't walk parallel lines for all eternity to see if they ever meet. But then again, or I can't see every square in the world to see if it has 4 sides. But that's not really math. Square, if having 4 sides is not math. Or 2 + 2 is 4. I can't put every integer together to see if the addition, the axiom about addition works. A + B is equal to B + A. There's an endless amount of combinations, and I can't do that. So I guess in a very, very, very broad, very specific and very extreme sense, there's a level of trust there. But that's almost absurd, because why would parallel lines meet? The thing is axioms are not just unprovable assertions. That are assumed to be true, which they are, but they are assumed to be true because there's no reason they should be false. There's no reason parallel lines, by definition of what parallel lines are, should ever meet. There's no reason at all they should meet. There's no reason A + B should not equal B + A for every single solitary possible integer that you could ever put together. And so this is the thing. So you can say, I think, very feasibly here that you don't need an element of trust in your mathematical claims as long as your calculations are correct. This is on you doing the math sort of level. Okay. And I think that's a very, very feasible claim. And you're certain, and where it comes in with the pragmatic certainty is you're certain about the answer because, and remember, it's not about certainty, it's about trust, but they're kind of flip sides of the coin. But you're certain about the answer, and when you're certain, you absolutely don't need any trust, and you're certain because the axioms are undeniably true. You can't prove them, but there's no reason they should be false. And this is the case. There is no reason they should be false. I can't even think of a feasible reason why A + B should not equal B + A. There's no reason. Like I said, I don't need to calculate every single possible combination of integers. And so that's the idea there. But if you're going to get into a higher level now, my leg peeped. Bloody Americans sicking the birds on us! I hate this place even more. All right. Sorry, I couldn't help it. This clothes make me sneeze. Oh, they're all dusty in the wig. Oh my goodness. All right, so, but so if we are instead going to talk about, for instance, you believing the proof of a theorem, like Fermat's last theorem, or how they figured out Pythagoras' theorem, or how and why calculus actually calculates these things, or the sort of the production of the formulas and the theorems and the truths in math and all this kind of stuff. Now, I mean, they're pretty true, I think, right? But I don't really necessarily know if Fermat's last theorem is proved. I can't even go through all the proof and figure it out. I don't even know what symbols mean a lot of the time. And so I think that I can't be certain about it. I can be certain about, like, my faith in authority, my trust in authority. I can be certain that it's but I can't be 100% certain the claims are true. And anything, and this is what I mean, they're a flip side. If you're 100% certain, you don't need trust. And if you have to have trust in the knowledge claim, then you're not 100% certain. Okay. And so, but I think you can easily make an argument in math that you can be 100% certain of something. Especially if you're talking about the calculations you have based on axioms, which are simply true because they are. Okay? And that kind of stuff. And so you see, how about if we go to something like history? Your historical knowledge claims. Well, I think that you could probably not have any knowledge of history that you haven't experienced yourself without having to put some trust in it, because you can't be certain of it. There's no way that you can be certain. You can't test it like speaking Spanish to be pragmatically certain that it works. Now, you can in science to a certain extent, so we'll get to that one in a minute. But I mean, as far as history is concerned, you can't be certain of the accounts. I can't be certain that the Revolutionary War happened the way they said that happened, and the British came over here, and well, they were over here. But whatever the case is, you guys know the story of the Revolutionary War, and that we won, and so on and so forth. I don't even know any of it ever happened. So if I'm going to believe anything about the Revolutionary War, I'm going to have to put trust in the claims. I just can't do anything myself. Now, okay, if I live through a historical experience, like I'm living through this COVID thing like now, and you guys are living through this COVID thing, and we're watching the social protests and riots and social unease and this election cycle and the whole sort of thing, historical time, no doubt. I mean, I guess I can be 100% sure, and I don't need an element of trust in my own perceptions of things that are happening. But I do need an element of trust in the news. I do need an element of trust that other people think the same way I do. I do need an element of trust of anything that is outside my own subjective experience. And if we're not going to doubt our own reality, then I think you could probably say, I trust my own experiences. I trust knowing what it's like being a teacher teaching during COVID. You know what it's like being a student trying to learn during COVID. And that's a big thing that we're all out of school. And so I mean, but that's going to be history. It isn't history now because we're living through it, but in 10 years' time it will be history. And so this is how that works. But I think that you could say pretty feasibly and pretty easily that anything in your history books, anything that you're learning, you have to have an element of trust. Trust and authority. Remember, I did that history lesson. If you're going to do this question, look at the history lesson on faith again, because I talk about this specifically in there. So I don't need to get too in depth into it. But faith in the authenticity of the history books. Faith in the damn birds! Quit sending your bloody birds on me, Americans. Anyway, that's silliness. Okay. So, I just got a funny idea for the editing. Okay, never mind. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. So nevertheless, so it's like this: faith in the claims of people, faith in interpretations, faith in stuff like this, and these are the elements of trust. So I don't need to get much more into that. Let's go into science. Okay. Do we have to have an element of trust in science? I think as consumers of science, and we've talked about this a lot, there's producers of knowledge and there's consumers of knowledge. And consumers of scientific knowledge, that's us. I think that the claims that they make about black holes, about asteroids, about nuclear fusion, about Bluetooth, about whatever, all these medicine, about all these cool scientific things that we do and we consume and we use, and it makes our life more livable. I think that all of this knowledge in your book, all of this stuff, you have to have an element of trust to it, because it's for the same reasons. You're not experiencing it yourself. You just are using it and they're just saying it's true. And it's probably true. It allows you to do things, but are you 100% certain of it? It's not the same kind of trust as you would have in history, but you can't be 100% certain of the speed of light, for instance, or the structure of an atom. You've never even seen an atom. I've never seen an atom. I don't even know how about going to determine the structure of an atom. I could probably replicate the experiment, but the thing is that I haven't done it. I mean, for that matter, I haven't even seen a circular Earth. But, I mean, please, I'm not stating something such absurd as they're flat Earth or anything, but you see what I mean. I mean, I haven't seen it for myself, I've seen pictures. And so all of these things are elements that you have to have trust in the claims. And I think it's a very, very good question that way, that yes, there's so many things, so many examples where you have to have an element of trust. Where could you say that you don't have to have an element of trust in science? Well, I think that now remember, induction causes a problem because science is about making predictions about future events based on past experiences. So you could make the argument that you always have to have an element of trust in the induction process in science, that you have to trust the future will conform to the past. I think you can't even get out of that ever, okay? I don't think you can. But I think that you can have certainty when you do an experiment and you see it happen in that one instance. When you've done something and you get a result, and it is actually a clear result, and somebody else who does it with you sees the same result, and you can have an objective result. I think that you could probably argue pretty well that you don't really need any trust in that because you see it yourself. I mean, you could argue you need trust in your interpretations, and once again, the Descartesian I'm in a bucket, brain bucket thing, you know, that whole sort of idea, but that's pretty nonsensical, really. It's a pretty small, so I think that you could claim that you know it. Another one is falsification, when you falsify something, when you have evidence that disproves a theory. And you know, when Einstein disproves Newtonian physics at the quantum level, when the luminiferous ether thing is disproved, when miasma theory is disproved, when we understand what germ theory is, and when it disproves the old belief, when heliocentric or when a geocentric universe is disproved, then I think that you could probably say when we have evidence, when we have complete evidence, the falsification allows us to know something with certainty in science. Now, we could also say induction, we have to believe it will continue to be falsified, but there's no real reason that it wouldn't be. And also, also you have that one evidence during that particular moment. Okay, I haven't talked about the definitions, what you'll need in here, but I will get to it, don't worry. And anyway, so if you're going to talk about religion, well, I think religion's a good one, and I'm going to be doing the religion videos pretty soon. After I finish these last 3 questions, I'm actually going to start on them, not today, but soon. But anyway, so like in religion, I think pretty much all the claims in religion are going to have to be based on some level of trust. Trust in the authority of the church, trust in the authority of the Bible or any other book, holy book that you read, trust in the authority of the teachings, trust in the authority of that there's a supernatural world in the first place. And I don't know, I mean, more so than saying like the Pope lives in Rome. I mean, I more so than those very, very basic things. Well, I mean, I'd have to have an element of trust there. I've never seen the Pope. I've been to Rome, but he wasn't there when I was there. So and I don't know where he lives in the first place. So I guess you could even say about that kind of stuff that there's an element of trust. But the Vatican Museums is in the Vatican. There, I can say that for sure, but that's not really religion per se. But I think I think that you could probably pretty much say that in religion, all of it has to do with trust. Now, art is another funny one. And human science will be a lot like science for the same things. You can disprove things. You're going to have more trust in human science. Like if you guys want to talk about psychology, you're going to have more trust in human sciences, and that's because humans are, you know, not an immaterial, inanimate thing. We're animate, and we have our emotions and our feelings and that kind of stuff. And so it's going to add an extra element. You have to trust more that these results are sound, because the results very commonly cannot be replicated in human science. So you're going to have trust that, you know, things done in the lab have ecological validity outside of the lab. All kinds of trust there. Now, if you're going to do human science, you want to do human psychology, and if you took some psych class, then by all means bring that in, and then talk to me about some examples we're thinking about. So we'll get to that. I don't want to make these videos too long. And finally, let's talk about the arts. Now, do you need an element of trust for all knowledge claims in the arts? You go and you listen to a piece of music, a song, and it moves you, it makes you feel angry, or it makes you feel happy, or it makes you feel sad, or you see a film which really, really means something important to you, and all that type of stuff, or you read a poem and it means something to you and you can relate to it. Well, do you need an element of trust for that? I don't think that you probably do. I think that you could say that those feelings are real, and I'm 100% certain of them, just like I'm 100% certain that I like cheesecake. And I think you could very, very easily say that yes. But if we're going to talk about people's interpretations of things, especially work that we've never seen or something like that, or if we're going to talk about the historical element of why this person wrote this or what this symbol means, well, yeah, you know, I think that we have to have an element of trust in there, saying these symbols mean that in that culture, which is way over there. I mean, we hear that, for instance, well, white, I don't want to say it wrong, I can't remember what white means. Does white mean death in China? I can't really remember, I don't want to mix it up. But white means purity here, and I think it means something not good in China. And I might be wrong on that. I can look it up and I can say yes or no, that's true. But anyway, regardless, I mean, I know it means purity here, but I don't know what it means in China. So if I'm going to believe that, I'm going to have to have an element of trust in there, because I haven't been to China and I've never talked to a Chinese person about that, and so on and so forth. And so we have different symbols all over the world, and we read in books and things, and they say this means that, and this means that, and this meant that, and this meant that, so you can interpret the artwork. Well, you're going to have an element of trust in there to believe it. Okay? And so that's the kind of idea. Fairly straightforward question. And so what do you need to define in here? Well, I think you need to define, obviously, an element of trust, what it means. Well, I've been talking about it, but trust means you're putting your belief into something. Trust also implies you're not completely certain. And so subsequently, that has to be defined, absolutely, element of trust. So some way to define it, but it's not very hard or complicated. I mean, it means, you know, basically you have to believe something, and so you have to put faith into it, so you're not certain, and so on and so forth, okay? Accepting knowledge claims, yeah, that just means you're going to believe something, I guess, you know, accept it as true, okay? And in a way, we do that with history. We accept a knowledge claim. We don't really know it, and it involves an element of trust. We accept it as true, like World War II happened or whatever. Okay? And so that's about, and always is a key word, because this is a contentious word here, and so what you want to do is find examples and say, no, you say something like, no, I disagree with the statement because it's an absolute statement. I don't think there's always an element of trust. I think some areas of knowledge are mostly based on trust, whereas some other areas of knowledge, like math, are more based on, you know, calculating from set axioms, or whatever the case is. You can do it in a million different ways, and here it's a really accessible question. I think it will be a popular question. But anyway, so there you go. And so I think that's going to be it. I think it will. Too bad I can't ask questions. But now back to the war! We gotta defeat these bloody Americans for King George! King George!